They say that talking to yourself is a sign of insanity. But I think that's only if you find yourself answering back. Right? Right. This is Talking to Myself, a podcast where I try to use events and anecdotes from my past to make myself a better artist, and maybe a better person. Hopefully other people can get some use out of this, but mostly I'm just trying to avoid paying for therapy. Today's show, I thought we'd focus on a concept I've recently come up with and been struggling with a little bit on my own, something I like to call the partial artist. Now, it's not about kung fu or karate or any of that cool stuff, although I am greatly impressed with and love those things. This is more about working on art and trying to make a living, whether those are the same thing or not. Working a day job and trying to sell art on the side, or just trying desperately to migrate yourself into full-time artist status, whatever that really means. Trying to recognize your validity as a professional artist when you're having trouble selling things. These are all problems we face all the time. So for a little bit of story background today, we like to base these in my own experience. I do, because I'm trying to relate it to me, because this podcast is mostly just to remind myself of things I need to do and remember and that kind of thing. I've had lots of jobs. Since I was about 11, I've been working for money. I worked on farms as a kid, a lot. Everyone around where I lived did. I've done Lord knows how many retail jobs. Everything from the very base level stock boy, putting stuff in people's cars at big box retailers, to managing video stores and movie theaters. I've had a lot of fun doing some of these jobs. Some of my fondest memories were working at the movie theater that I went to college and worked at. We would have really fun discussions. I remember breaking into a laughing fit that I had to go in another room and lock myself in because I was laughing too hard to tear tickets after a discussion of what it would be like to mix up Pulp Fiction and Star Wars and have Jar Jar get his head blown off in the back of a car. That was a fun day. But as rewarding as that was, I've always kind of, in the back of my mind, wanted to be a professional artist, or a full-time professional artist. And I haven't really achieved that yet. I'm a little afraid to push towards it because I know that I can't just achieve it out of the blue. And I know that it's going to take a lot of effort, a lot of directed effort, and a lot of hopefully constructive failure to get there. So that's the fear that's keeping me from making that giant push. But even if you don't make a giant push, it's okay to be a partial artist, as I call it, because I'm so full of stupid puns, I had to get one out there. It's okay to be a partial artist and do things to survive. I mean, I have a full-time job now. It's rather demanding, and after work, it's difficult sometimes for me to bring myself to make anything, or to even ideate or sketch or come up with anything. Recently, I got a couple of paid commissions in art, and that should be an interesting and fun thing for me to get into because I'm making money at art. That's the goal, isn't it? I found it very difficult to motivate myself to actually produce these things. They're not that complicated. They won't take a great deal of time. I mean, they'll take some effort, for sure. But it's been difficult for me to do that. And why? I keep asking myself, why? Isn't this what you wanted? Isn't this kind of the goal, is to be a professional artist? And I thought about it. What I've developed as a sort of idea of what making money at art is I make something artistic based on whatever I'm thinking of, or, I make it freely of my own will, and then I sell that thing. Like, I'll make a comic, and then I'll sell the comic. Or not, in my case. I'll make a painting, and then I'll sell the painting. Or prints, that kind of thing. Commissions are sort of the opposite of that. What you have is someone else's idea, and then you're just the technician, sort of creating their idea. You're providing a skill set that they don't have, which is why it's valuable, and there's absolutely nothing dishonorable or wrong about that sort of trade. That's a big part of a lot of quote-unquote full-time professional artists. Money. That's how they make a lot of their money, and that's great. If I could get more of these, I'm sure I could bring it to myself to devote more time to them, and that could be a full-time career. I don't know if I would find it as enjoyable as what I do now, even as a partial artist, as I keep referring to, trying to make it legitimate. At the moment, what I'm doing is more interesting to me because it's more of my own creativity. It's more of my own ideals. I get to push myself in different directions. The restrictions I develop are based on things I think will be helpful for my artistic growth, rather than just the needs or wants of a client. So making art for myself, obviously, as most artists will tell you, is easier and more fun than making art for someone else. It may or may not be as lucrative. It might be possible that I make a comic or a painting or a series of paintings. I have a show this year that I want to do, and if that's successful, then I will have made money based on my own art, and that's a great feeling. To do that sustainably would be the way to become a professional, quote-unquote, full-time artist, and that would be wonderful. That's one of my life goals. It's not incredibly likely to suddenly happen like that. I think you have to build up slowly. That's part of the reason why it's so frustrating, so difficult for most people, myself included, to sort of make that transition, or to even consider making that transition. It's sort of like thinking, I want to take up a new career that I have some skill at, but maybe not a professional level of skill at, and I want it to be successful right away, and that's just not going to happen. You can't expect to be good at something you just started, and you have to be good at it in order to make it worthwhile, so it's sort of like you have to take a leap of faith. So far, I haven't really made a push to be a full-time artist at all. I don't know if I'm hoping for more success as a partial artist, part-time. I like to call myself semi-pro because that's an old term, and I like old stuff, and it's kind of accurate because some of the time I am a professional artist and some of the time I'm just not, in my own mind. It turns into sort of, what do you want to be? Do you want to be someone who their main income is from art no matter what? In that case, you do whatever you have to do to make that happen. You do commissions, you do fan art that sells, if that's the most important thing to you, you have to decide what that means to you. I think my own decision is sort of, at the moment, I'm more interested in making art, and then I do want to sell it. I'm trying to sell it. I want that to be a large portion of my income. I don't want to make the income the goal. I want to make the art the goal. And I know that sounds really pretentious and, as they would say from where I'm from, highfalutin. But at this point in my life, it's clear how difficult it's going to be to become a full-time artist, making all my income from art. And if that doesn't happen, I'll have to be okay with that. And I've kind of made my peace with that by deciding that, well, if I can't rely on producing art for my income and that's all I have to do is make art, then I'm going to make sure that the stuff I make is just what I want to make. And what happens with it after, I'll do my best to try to make that profitable, but I'm not going to make profit the goal, because I don't think I can sustain that. I don't think it might be possible in the short term. I don't think I can keep it going for a lifetime sustainability, even the whatever portion of lifetime I have left. Working on stuff you like and trying to sell it are two separate things. I need to focus more on the selling because I'm not very good at it at all, and I'm trying to do that this year. The comic project I want to produce is something I do plan to sell. The gallery show I want to produce is something I do want to profit from, or at least break even from. But the reason I'm doing them both is not because I want to sell a comic and I want to have a successful gallery show that makes a lot of money. Those aren't the reasons why I'm doing those two things. I'm doing those two things because at the end of the year, I want to have a comic and a series that was gallery showed that I can have in sort of my resume, I want to make more things. I want to produce more stuff. Hopefully, that also means more profit. Like the gnome said, step 3 is profit. So maybe my step 2 is just make more things. Better quality, more things. You have to have more profit if you sell more things. Theoretically, that's true. But for me, the reason I'm making more things is because the more you make, the better you get. And the more ideas you express and get out there, the more room you have for other ideas. So, bringing it back to my original concept, after all this wandering around, we like to wander here on Talking to Myself. If you consider yourself a partial artist, a part-time artist, and you think that makes you not a professional, or if you're having trouble selling, but you want to be a full-time professional, don't let the idea that you're not selling full-time keep you from thinking that you are a professional or can be. I think that it's possible to be a full-time professional artist and make lots of money. It's rare, and more likely will you be a partial artist and make money. But if you can make enough money as a partial artist to sustain you in a minimal way, or at least to sustain your activities as an artist, then I think you're doing extremely well. And you should make sure to remember that. And if commissions are super hard to do, maybe don't take them next time. Make yourself a commission. Decide you're going to do a comic book project or a gallery show and force yourself to work on that. At any rate, I am a partial artist, and if I always stay that way, I'm fine with that, because as long as I'm producing art and some of it selling, I'm still a professional artist. And you can be too. These podcasts are mostly to help myself remember things I don't want to forget, to remind myself that I can achieve things that I want to achieve, and to keep from having to pay a therapist to work through some of my childhood problems. A little bit less on that last one today. Hopefully they're helpful to you as well. Thank you to my patrons at Patreon who get to see these episodes a week earlier than everyone else. Your support is greatly appreciated, and you're all the shiniest people I know. Thanks to you for watching this on YouTube, or if you happen to hear it later as an audio podcast, eventually these will be available as regular audio podcasts also. You guys are great, and although I could make this on my own, since it is just mostly for my ears, I find the idea that people are listening very helpful. Hopefully it's been helpful to you as well. Thank you very much, and I will see you guys next time.